the Fox card. That's a funny thing, man. The ratings are in for Fox. I think what they call the national, like, was it the national fast ratings or fast track ratings or something like that? It's got them at like 750,000 average viewership. I don't know, pay-per-view buys. That'd be a phenomenal pay-per-view. But 750,000 average viewers. That shocked the hell out of me. Right? I think when all the numbers will come in, it'll come in somewhere around 900,000, 950,000, because this fast average is like, all the info is not in, but it's enough, right? We've got enough of the bulk of the numbers to see kind of where we're at. I would imagine it's gonna uptick a little bit, settle somewhere around 900,000, but it's not what you would expect on Fox from PBC. And again, these aren't accurate, like these are rough estimate type deals. But again, it's, if you're somebody that saw what happened last week with the numbers with James and Delorme, and you saw that they were at, I think it ended up when it was all said and done, 1.1 million on average, you would imagine Sean would be able to do better than that. Again, we've got the NBA, we've got ESPN, we had boxing going on ESPN Plus. There's a bunch of shit going on yesterday. But I can't imagine that anybody over at PBC on Fox is happy, even if they're taking all these things into account. Not very good numbers. You would, again, I would expect for those numbers to have been better at the very least than last week's numbers. I thought they would have been 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, somewhere up there, maybe as high as 1.6, considering that Plant Feigenbutts did 1.5 million, right? So that's very interesting. I thought Sean looked sharp as hell. He looked crispy as hell. I want to see Sean versus Thurman. That's the fight I want to see. I think it's the fight that makes the most sense. If Thurman's talking about fighting Bud and he wants 10 million to fight Bud, he more than likely ain't going to get 10 million to fight Sean, but he'd get paid to fight Sean. Sean versus Thurman on Fox, assuming that there's no NBA on, would be a monster fight in terms of ratings. And it answers a ton of questions, right? Because my questions, as far as Sean Porter is concerned, you see the performance he put in against Formella. I know he's still quick. I know he's still explosive. I know that if you're standing in front of him looking to time Sean Porter, you ain't going to be able to time the fucking guy because he's outside. He's on the outside and he'll close the distance before you can even react to it. And then that's it. He's on you. He's a dog. And he's going to land hard, he's going to land often, he's going to put shots together to the body, and go upstairs. And he looked really, really sharp yesterday. So I'm not worried about Sean Porter. But I do want to know where Keith Thurman is at. And not only that, I do want to know where do we place this win that Pacquiao got over Thurman in terms of in terms of boxing history. How do we couch this Pacquiao win? Because right now, you saw the fight that Thurman had with Josecito Lopez, and you've got to say that's not what we were necessarily expecting. You see the first round that Pacquiao has against Thurman, and again, that's not it's not what we're expecting out of Thurman. But Thurman comes on strong. Pacquiao's a legend, and Thurman is able to Thurman's actually able to close the show out strong and make it competitive enough to where on some cards, I think myself included, I had Thurman winning the fight, right? But we also know, prime for prime, what the outcome was between Sean and Keith. And something tells me that maybe Sean, I don't think that Keith would beat Sean at this point. I'd be surprised. If Keith beat Sean at this point, it changes, it puts the win that Pacquiao got over Keith at a much higher level in my mind. I don't want to get into the Floyd Pacquiao argument because it doesn't put Pacquiao over the top. But it's a hell of a win at that point. Now, if what I think might happen if Sean fights Keith happens, and Sean comes out and beats Keith up and outboxes him and, maybe touches him to the body and, I don't know, maybe gets him up out of there. I don't know if Keith, again, it's a question mark. I don't know if Keith is the same guy, but if that does happen, then it changes things. as far as the way I rate the Pacquiao fight. I don't know if this is the right thinking. I know that styles make fights and all that good shit, but I've always had that suspicion that that win, while I give Pacquiao all the credit in the world, I think that Keith, I think that the deterioration or that the you know, as much as Keith may have lost a step, played just as much of a factor towards Pacquiao getting that victory over him. So that's who I would love to see next for Sean Porter. Dug the performance. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to, you know, I don't know this Formella guy, so I don't really know what else to say beyond that. Fundora was fun. Fundora I hope somebody did this, the fun pun, but Fundora put the fun in Fundora. Fun fight. Nice to look at. Guy's a freak, 6'5". There was a time in the 2010s, 11s or something like that we thought Paul Williams was a freak. He was 6'1" as a welterweight. People never even fucking heard of it. You know, he was like the next Tommy Hearns, who I think also they showed the graphic. Was he also 6'1" or 6'2"? Not very tall. This guy's 6'5". I should, you know, I'm burying the lead here, but you know, yeah, he's a tall dude. It's very odd to see, but it's very visually pleasing. And especially that he fights in a visually pleasing way. He fights kind of short and he fights on the inside. I think it's dope. People really enjoyed that performance. Now, if we go over, let's look over Gallimore, the win-losses real quick or whatever, because Gallimore's been in tough. He's never been stopped. So, and I just want to make sure, but I know some of these names, but I want to make sure I get them all. So he's never been stopped. You look at that. I mean, lastly, he was in the last fight he was in with Lubin. I was at that fight. I would imagine that Erickson Lubin thought that he would be able to get Gallimore up out of there. Hit him with a ton of hard shots in that fight. You know, beat him pretty clearly, but wasn't able to do it. Right? We've got a loss to J-Rock. We got a loss UD to Teixeira. We've got a loss UD to Erickson Lubin. These are good fighters. Right? And then we've got, what do we have? We've got a TKO, obviously, Jason Rosario. So he's been in with some tough guys. Fundora comes out there, you know, again, goes ham on him, throws a ton of punches in bunches, touches him up, touches him to the body. You know, at the end, actually the last series, Goosen didn't even call it. I'm sure everybody peeped it by now, but he lands like a really quick kidney shot on the inside. Gallimore does one of these jobbies, starts to kind of crouch down, and Fundora gets him out of there with a 4 or 5 piece combo. Ray Corona calls the fight off, and that's pretty much all she wrote. People are calling for like the top of the division, the J-Rocks, the Jarrett Herds. I'm down with it. You know, at this point, 154 is so lit. There's so many good quality fights that could be made out there. If Fundora, if they want to fast track this kid and this kid feels that he's ready for that level of competition, I'd like to see him in with Jarrett Hurd. You know, this is a guy that is also a physically big dude. It's not very often probably that he's the smaller guy, but he would certainly be the smaller guy in terms of height. Hurd's got a broad back. He's a big guy himself. He also throws a bunch of punches. It would be a war of attrition. I'd love to see how that fight would play out. People want J-Rock. People want all kinds of guys for this Fundora. So it'll be interesting to see. I think he needs to tighten up the defense. I mean, unless he really does have a granite chin. I mean, I saw him take a bunch of shots from Gallimore. Unless he really does have a granite chin, though, he can't be getting caught like that, especially seeing how there was a few times to where he actually had his guard up, but like just mispositioned here somewhere, sometimes like way down here. And Gallimore's landing shots that otherwise, had he just had his guard up and chin tucked, he can just probably catch those shots on his gloves and get away with essentially blocking them. So, you know, these are things that he would probably have to tighten up the defense a little bit, so on and so forth. But if he does have a granite chin and he's just walking through everybody's shit, then I tend to agree with the people that think that he's going to give anybody a run for their money at 154 pounds, because he's a very big guy. He leans on you, gets you tired, throws punches. He's got a gas tank. He punches, he puts his punches together well, throws punches for days. And I'd be very interested to see what's next for this kid.